Hi, I'm Tracy Jacobs. I'm the director of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Towson University. I want to welcome you to the Osher preview of spring classes. Today you'll hear from many of our instructors who will tell you about their spring courses, and you'll hear about that in a few minutes. Just got a few things to tell you first. If you want to take a look at the Osher Spring Catalog, please visit www.towson.edu/Osher and click on the Spring Catalog PDF. Registration will open starting on Tuesday, February 4th. If you have questions about registration, please email us at osher@towson.edu. Please be patient with us as we work to answer everyone's questions. Online registration is preferred. We'll accept mailed-in registrations, but you must let us know that you've mailed it in by following up with an email to osher@towson.edu, and also include the names of the courses that you want to take in that email. So I want to tell you a little bit about our schedule. Online classes are offered on Mondays and Fridays, and most of these classes are recorded. However, there is one that will not be recorded, and you'll see that noted in the catalog. We are meeting in person on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We know that the in-person experience is important to so many of you for the camaraderie and the community, and we love to see you. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are in-person classes, and please note that none of those are recorded. That's it for my announcements. I just want to thank you for joining us today. If you're new to Osher, I want to welcome you, and if you've been with us for a while, I want to thank you for your continued participation. And now you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the following preview presentations.
Oh, hi! Greetings, my esteemed Osher students. Seth Keibel here. A quick story for you. Back when I was in middle school, I'd been playing clarinet for a few years in the school band, but I had suddenly become interested in jazz. So I went to my well-intentioned but ill-informed band director and said, I'd like to play jazz. And he said, that's great, but if you're gonna play jazz, you're gonna have to learn the saxophone, because you can't play jazz on the clarinet. Now, as wrong as that was, I kind of understand where he was coming from, because the clarinet has occupied a somewhat marginal role in jazz history over the last 50, 60 years. But once upon a time, during the swing era, the late 30s into the 40s, the clarinet was one of the dominant instruments of this music, and the swing era was dominated by clarinet-playing band leaders like Benny Goodman and Artie Shaw, who's Begin the Begin I was just playing, and Woody Herman. And these are the clarinetists whose lives, music, and careers we are going to discuss in my class Wednesday mornings, April at Edenwald, Clarinetists of the Swing Era. It's going to be a fun class. We're going to listen to a lot of great music. I'm going to tell a lot of great historical anecdotes. I'm going to bring my instruments with me as well. This music is just a joy to listen to, and it's a joy to talk about. And we're going to have a lot of fun, and I hope to see you there, so sign up.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Abramowitz, and I will be teaching a class about the amazing sound and legacy of the Brill Building, a period of great songwriters and performers. Executives who changed the history of music, and the release of many of the best songs of all time. Those were the times when the Wall of Sound was created. So don't miss it, and see you soon online. Hello, friends. I'm Michael Saltzman, and over the years, we have discussed every major movement of modern or contemporary art, except for the longest lasting and most mysterious one. Surrealism began 100 years ago in 1924 with Andre Masson's Manifesto. It had historical, literary, and political sources preceded by 19th century symbolic art, metaphysical artists like de Chirico and the Dada group, Man Ray, Duchamp, Picabia, in response to the First World War. In the second lecture, we will cover the three surrealist giants of the 1920s and 30s, the painters Max Ernst, Miro, and Magritte, both abstract and representational, some of whom foreshadowed representational and conceptual art in later decades. The third lecture will cover Dali, the most popular surrealist, the dissolution of a formal surrealist group, and the important rise of female surrealists, many of whom were ignored at first, who have come in and out from several periods, artists like Frida Kahlo, Merritt Oppenheim, Leonora Carrington, and Dorothy Tanning from the 1940s and beyond. The final lecture is devoted to surrealism from the Second World War to the present, with its influence on pop art, conceptual art, and neo-surrealism, and artists George Kondo, Inka Ezenhai, Uwe Yuskowitz, and Nicholas Party. I hope we get together to enjoy this exploration in this anniversary year.
Hello, my name is Howard Cohn. In my class, we'll explore the exquisite glass art, the exceptional glass artists, and the institutions that have historically made Murano, Prague, and Seattle three centers of glass art excellence. Glass art has flourished in Murano and Prague since the Renaissance. In fact, Murano has had the largest concentration of glassmakers from the Renaissance until the beginning of the 21st century. Seattle rose to prominence in the 1970s and 80s when Dale Chihuly established the Pilchuck Glass School near Seattle in 1971. The school quickly grew into an institution that has had a profound impact on glass artists worldwide. In 1983, Chihuly left the East Coast and decided to live and work in Seattle. We'll be exploring three main themes. The first is the importance of each location to the development of art made from glass. My primary focus will be from the second half of the 20th century until today, 75 years. The second is to illustrate the work of the finest contemporary glass artists in each city. In addition to sharing their work, you'll learn about the techniques and processes they use to realize their creative vision. Finally, I'll showcase the interactions and collaboration between artists. This exchange of ideas and hands-on experiences and experimentation played a pivotal role in developing glass artists globally. I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to share these stories with you. My intention is to show you work that will both delight and astonish you. Hopefully that's how you feel as you look around the room. Thank you very much. I hope you'll join me on this journey.
One of the reasons why I love teaching 8 plays everyone should know every single semester is because I get so many terrific insights from you all. And every time I revisit the plays that I bring to you, I get something out of it each time. I think that's why it makes them part of the world's greatest plays canon. This slate of 8 plays was actually chosen by vote from last semester's students. But as a reminder, you don't have to have taken the course ever before. You don't have to do any advanced reading or viewing, although I do send students by email links to scripts or to videos that they might want to take a look at before class, but you don't have to. Anyway, the slate this semester really runs the gamut as usual. We're going to look at two comedies, Moliere's The Miser and Ossie Davis's Pearly Victorious, which had a successful Broadway revival not so long ago. We're going to look at my favorite playwright, Anton Chekhov, and his comedy drama, Uncle Vanya. We're going to go to Ireland for a classic called Riders to the Sea. We're going to look at two Edward Albee plays, Three Tall Women and A Delicate Balance. And we're going to look at a little-known play by, unfortunately, a now little-known playwright, William Inge, who was the rage of the 50s. And this play is called The Dark at the Top of the Stairs. And finally, we're going to look at a groundbreaking play from the 60s, Mark Crowley's The Boys in the Band. I look forward to seeing you at Edenwald at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays, and I am so looking forward to seeing some of my old friends and meeting some new friends this semester.
Hello, my name is Father Bob Albright, and I'm teaching a course called The Survey of the Bible. So, did you know that the first 5 books of the Bible, known in Greek as the Pentateuch and in Hebrew as the Torah, were not written by Moses, but by at least 4 authors and a redactor? Did you know that some of the prophets of the Bible practiced prophecy as a profession and had disciples and even schools of prophecy? Did you know that none of the kings of Israel were kings, but rather messiahs? That is, anointed ones. Did you know that not all the letters attributed to St. Paul in the New Testament were written by him? Did you know that Matthew and Luke copied Mark's gospel as the basis for their own gospels? Did you know that the Gospel of John is a multi-strata composition of at least 3 authors? And did you know that contrary to popular contemporary preachers, the book of Revelation says nothing about today's world? Well, that's just a few of the things you will have explained to you when you take the course Survey of the Bible. So, please bring a Bible with you and join us for this rapid but thorough trip through the greatest story ever told.
Hello, my Osher friends. I'm Ed Fothergill, and the course that I will be teaching this semester is called Descartes' Dilemma. The 17th century French philosopher René Descartes imposed upon himself an ambitious philosophical task. He said, I want to devise a method of philosophical investigation that would guarantee the apprehension of truth with complete certainty. The task was clearly monumental, and Descartes knew that his reasoning would have to be utterly perfect. I think we can justifiably call this a dilemma. But as fate would have it, the dilemma was painfully compounded when Descartes felt pressured by the Catholic Church to invoke God into his philosophical equation. So in this course, we will trace the development of Descartes' dilemma and consider the intellectual fallout in the thought of 3 subsequent philosophers, Blaise Pascal, Edmund Husserl, and Ludwig Wittgenstein. Thank you for your consideration.
Go.
Hello, I'm Ellen O'Brien, and I'd like you to join me in my class on the Greek goddesses. These are absolutely fabulous ladies. They lived, they loved, and they were worshipped for 2,000 years, from 1600 BCE way up until 400 CE with the fall of the Roman Empire. And not only that, the Greek religion was very unique. The first creator, the first source, the first divine power to come out of chaos was Gia, a woman. So we'll talk about her children, her grandchildren, and her grandson was Zeus. And oh my, do we have a lot to talk about with him. He had 7 wives. His last wife was Hera, and we'll talk about her a lot. Of course, his first wife was Metis, Metis. He swallowed her. She was pregnant. And then from that pregnancy, we have Athena. We'll have to talk about that. And we know there is the Trojan War and how the Greek women, goddesses, picked sides in that war. Some wanted the Trojans, some wanted the Greeks. So there'll be lots of backstories about that. So come along and join with me as we have some fabulous fun looking at these 2,000 years of Greek goddesses. Thank you.
Hello folks, I am filming this in a very unusual location. I'm filming this in Taipei, Taiwan, in the main railway station as I'm about to leap on a high-speed train during a brief visit to this beautiful country. But I'm recording this video to tell you a little bit about the 6-part course I'll be teaching this coming spring called Fighting Slavery in Early America. And this is a history course. It focuses on the struggles of enslaved people and their free allies, both white and black, to resist, to oppose, to confront American slavery in its early phases. So we'll look at resistance to the transatlantic slave trade as a major category of protest against enslavement. We'll look at opposition to plantation slavery and methods and motives for resistance on the plantation, and we'll look at the lives of people who managed to get away and live in the hills and swamps of colonial America. We'll also look at what are called slave revolts, enslaved people rising up in collective fashion against enslavement, and we'll culminate by looking at the American Revolution as a war for black liberation, for enslaved people to seize the opportunities provided by the chaos of the American Revolutionary War to seize freedom for themselves. So this is, I think, a highly original, very unusual look at the history of slavery through the eyes of those who were enslaved and through the opportunities they carved for themselves and their loved ones to resist, strike back, and oppose. Hope you come with me on this journey. This will be on Zoom, of course, not here in Taiwan. Hope to see you again for that course beginning in spring. Take care.
Hello. My name is Bob Baer, and I'll be teaching Heroes of Nonviolence, Tuesdays at 11 o'clock. Now, heroes are usually thought of as individuals, whether fictional or real life, who demonstrate courage in fighting against perceived evil. They are mostly known to use violence in fighting for their side. Throughout history, many people have instead made great sacrifices to their personal freedom and safety to protest against unjust laws and societal oppression, utilizing nonviolent behaviors and strategies. This class will explore the lives of individuals who practice pacifism and civil disobedience to challenge issues such as civil rights, slavery, voting restrictions, economic exploitation, militarism, and environmental degradation, and make calls for peace and national self-determination. Activists profiled will include Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Susan B. Anthony, Cesar Chavez, Henry David Thoreau, Nelson Mandela, Alice Paul, Daniel Berrigan, Alexei Navalny, Greta Thunberg, and others who sought peaceful means to promote societal change. An important goal of the class will be to reflect on how a peaceful activist movement can impact beliefs in a democratic society. So I hope you'll join me.
Hi, my name is Jack Burkert. I'm an instructor with the Osher Institute several years now. Do Baltimore history type programs. This year in the spring, we're going to have a program series about the Patapsco River. that elephant in the room that we always talk about, Baltimore, but never quite get to the reason why there is a Baltimore. Anyway, Patapsco River, we talk about the history of the river, upstream and the tidal basin where the port is. Second topic, we're going to talk about the Port of Baltimore and how it uses the Patapsco. Then we'll go ahead and talk about the long-lost art of shipbuilding, 300 years of shipbuilding on the Patapsco, fascinating stories. And then we're going to talk about the back door to the port. Rather than come up the Chesapeake Bay to get to the port, a lot of ships come through the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal. And so we're going to talk about how they got there, how come we have a canal, and who built it, and how long did it take, and how does it work, and all those kinds of things. So 4 topics in the spring. Looking forward to offering them to you. I hope you can join us. See you in April. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, I'm Bill Berry, and I'm excited to be coming back to Towson Osher for this spring. We have an exciting and a very timely course called The History of Labor in Baltimore. We're going to cover important areas. We're going to early Baltimore labor history, particularly around the Fells Point area, the shipbuilding, the caulkers, and the criminal conspiracy cases against the unions down there. We're going to cover 19th century Baltimore, particularly the industrial expansion, and focusing on the B&O Railroad and the railroad strike of 1877. We're going to be looking at slavery as a labor function. We're going to be looking at the slaves, the free blacks, the self-hires, and all the incredibly complicated history that they have as work here and how it impacted us today. We're going to look at the 1930s, such an exciting period of organizing in Baltimore. And we're going to look at how that affected issues like the civil rights movement, political campaigns, and very important stuff. We're going to look at industrial Baltimore, and particularly focus on Sparrows Point and on the shipyards, which made Baltimore a major industrial city. And the loss of those made a major change in political beliefs and accusations throughout the history. We're going to look at public sector unionism in Baltimore, particularly the development with the civil rights movement in the city of Baltimore for public workers, for the city, for the Mass Transit Authority. And then we're going to look at post-industrial Baltimore. What happens when a city really, really changes and people's lives are gone? We're certainly seeing the reflection of that in the 2024 election. We're going to have some guest speakers and going to cover current events. So it's an exciting time, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barbara Blumberg-Resson, and I'm going to be teaching the history of women's fashions from underwear to outerwear. It's actually a part 1. Part 2 will be in the fall. Part 1's not a requisite for that. But the word fashion can be either a noun or a verb, depending on how one uses it in a sentence. In addition, women's fashion depend on many outside factors other than the whims of a dress designer. From economics to mores, from government to one's religion, from politics to practicality, and lastly, one's culture and current technology all play a role in what we women wear. Did you know that it was due to the government during World War I that the ungodly corsets that women were forced to wear were eventually out, and women no longer wore them? Historians have noted that when women are repressed and have to follow strict roles in society and kept dependent on first the fathers and then husbands, kept from being educated, from voting, etc., that their clothing was restrictive as well. This is not a fashion course per se. It is really a sociology course. Who dictated women's fashions and why? Eve may have started with just some fig leaves, but the many layers that Puritan, colonial, and Victorian women wore defies the imagination. Part 1, we'll learn about all the clothing through the centuries, from when the people came to this country, that women had to endure due to the influence of what I mentioned above. With the aid of vintage films, photos, decades-old fashion, all of this will come to life. And we will come to understand what the pressures women were put through due to fashion. I hope to see you all when I start this course in late spring. Thank you.
From Pizzagate to eating pets to disaster deepfakes, disinformation seems to be more rampant than ever before. A recent study of high school students by the News Literacy Project found that 81% believe at least one conspiracy theory. So how did we get here? More importantly, what can we do to solve America's disinformation problem? In my discussion-based class, Why Are We Missing the Disinformation Solution?, we'll have the chance to explore the answers together. Each week, I'll begin by sharing what's been tried so far. Then we'll talk about how journalists have tried to fact-check their way out, why tech companies have hidden behind legal protections, how politicians have taken the spotlight, and why educators are quietly teaching critical thinking skills. Then we'll discuss why we haven't seemed to make any progress and what we can do about it. So if you're someone who likes to problem solve, or just likes a good discussion about a topic that impacts all of us, join me, Towson University librarian Joyce Garzinski, on Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. in session 2 for Why Are We Missing the Disinformation Solution?
Hello, I'm Debbie Finch, a former teacher and substance use prevention specialist. I'm teaching again this year with Dr. Patrick Chalk, former assistant commissioner with the Baltimore City Health Department. Last fall, we presented a course together on the opioid epidemic, and this spring, we'll discuss substance use, particularly as it relates to older adults like you and me. Did you know that marijuana sales now outpace alcohol sales? And that's in the U.S. And 1 in 5 older adults report regular marijuana use. Marijuana use is on the rise among older adults, and so are visits to the emergency room as a result. Over 40% of adults age 65 and older report binge drinking. And have you noticed that network television is saturated with drug advertisements? Medication overload among older adults, also known as polypharmacy, is a real and devastating public health issue. As a report by the nonprofit Loan Institute noted, over the past few decades, medication use in the U.S., especially for older people, has gone far beyond necessary polypharmacy to the point where millions are overloaded with too many prescriptions and are experiencing significant harm as a result. Of course, our course is entitled High Times, Medications, Marijuana, and Alcohol Among Older Adults, and it should be a fun and informative class. Here's what we know. Aging makes us vulnerable to a range of unique effects from a range of substances, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, or prescription medication. The aging process presents particular changes for us, whether the drugs used are prescribed to us or not. We'll talk about how aging makes us vulnerable in ways that challenge our health. We will discuss the risks for older adults with these substances and how aging impacts these effects. We will also share guidelines and strategies for prevention, as well as tools and resources for intervention and help. Please join us for a great discussion on a really important topic. Patrick and I look forward to seeing you in the spring session.